Hey, it's Coach Justin from Ultimate Baseball Training, and in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how to out-hit players that are bigger than you, all right? Especially as a smaller player, I know how frustrating it can be when you feel like you're putting in just as much, if not more, hard work in the weight room and on the field, and it just doesn't seem to pay off for you like it does for the bigger players. Maybe it seems like they just have more natural power, and they do have an advantage when it comes to they just have a little bit more size, but that doesn't mean that smaller players can't improve their power and can't be extremely powerful hitters. It just comes down to utilizing your body effectively and making sure you're efficient with your movements. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. I'm going to give you 4 checkpoints. I call them the 4L checkpoints because they all start with the letter L. But if you do all 4 of these checkpoints, if you can look at your swing and you can say, yes, I get to this checkpoint, yes, I get to this checkpoint, if you can check all 4 boxes, then you're really going to position yourself to really reach your full power potential. So I think, especially as a smaller player, this video is going to really help you out. Without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, so the first checkpoint that I want to talk about is the lead arm. Now, anytime you're talking about improving your power or increasing your bat speed, you're bound to hear the term separation, and it needs to be said because separation is so important when it comes to maximizing your bat speed and your power. I mean, the more stretch, the more separation, the more energy that you can build up, you can then explode that energy onto the baseball. But if you only build up a little bit of energy, obviously, then you only have a little bit to explode on the baseball. So it makes sense, right? We want to maximize our stretch, or in other words, maximize our separation. And so that's why I want you to look at your lead arm. So for a right-handed hitter, it would be your left arm, your lead arm. And specifically, what I want you to focus on is, okay, so obviously you're in your stance, okay, and your hands are going to be in a position, you know, it varies from hitter to hitter, but let's say your hands are about shoulder height, they're in a position similar to this, okay? What I really want you to pay attention to is as you begin striding towards the pitcher, okay, then what does your lead arm look like? At this point, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to have some flex in here. Obviously, you're not going to start with your lead arm out like this. That would be awkward, right? But you're going to start with a little bit of flex. You're going to have your hands in a position here, and then you're going to go into your load. And as you stride towards the pitcher, you should see that you start to develop some length in this front arm. It's not completely locked out like this. You've got some flex, you're athletic, but what you're doing is you're creating that separation, okay? So make sure that your lead arm, that's the first checkpoint, is getting some length here. Now, how do you go about doing that? I talk about this all the time, but it's worth revisiting. You wanna make sure there's no push. Okay, there's no push backwards. All right, I think that's a common mistake that a lot of hitters make is they're in their stance here and they think, okay, well, I've got to get separation. And so maybe when they go into their load, they push their hands back. Or maybe when they stride towards the pitcher, then they push their hands back like this, and it's not a push. I think a great way to get this feeling down is just imagine when you're in your stance, your hands start here. Imagine you're holding on to someone else's hands. So you're holding on tight right here, right? You're gripping someone else's hands. And all you're going to do is as you move, so you load and your hands stay here. And as you move towards the pitcher, you're just holding their hands back here. Your hands are not getting pushed back. It's actually your body is moving away from your hands. So that's a great drill. Have dad hold his hands here, grab his hands, and just work on that feeling of, okay, my hands are starting here, I'm gonna load. As I stride, my hands are gonna stay back. That's gonna allow this good length in that front arm. So when your front foot hits the ground, do you have good length in this front arm? That's the very first checkpoint. So once you get some length in that front arm, you're really going to notice an increase in your bat speed and your power, and that's just the first checkpoint. Let's get into the second checkpoint, the second L, which is your legs, right? We hit with our legs, we hit with our big muscles. I think so much emphasis is put on, you know, your hands, throw your hands and knob to the ball, and so much emphasis is on your hands and your upper body, and they are important. Your upper body is just as important as your lower half, but I think the problem is a lot of players spend all their time focusing on their hands and their upper body, and they completely neglect their legs. And the reality is that's where the majority of your power comes from, right? Why can you squat more weight? Why can you leg press more weight than you can curl with your biceps, right? Because your legs are the biggest and strongest muscles on your body. So if you, especially as a small player, if you want to increase your power, you've got to use the biggest muscles that are available to you, okay? And so when I say legs, all right, we're gonna go into our load and our stride. We're gonna get that good length in our front arm here. And then you wanna make sure when your front foot hits the ground that you're sinking down into an athletic position. Get into a position similar to this, and you can feel how much your legs are activated in a position like this, as opposed to, I think a common problem is players don't stride far enough. So you don't want to overstride, but you don't want to understride either. I don't even care if if you start with your feet really, really close together, but if you only stride out to a distance like this, well then I don't really feel my legs activated here, and pretty much all I have is to throw my hands at the ball at that point in time. But if I take a decent stride, a really solid stride, I can feel I sink down into this athletic position. So this is the second checkpoint. When your front foot hits the ground here, are you using your legs? And is your stride, do you have a good stride length? This should almost look like an equilateral triangle. If your stride length is only here, that's too little, all right? We don't want to get out here like this, but you want to make sure that you get into a decent stride length and utilize the biggest and strongest muscles that you have available to you. The third checkpoint that we're going to talk about is the launch position. And this is an area where a lot of players, they mess this up. So I want to make sure, especially as a smaller player, that you don't screw this up, that you use this to your advantage, okay? So if you look at any successful hitter, if you look at any professional hitter, the guys that do it at the highest level, you're going to notice that they're all going to have a little bit of a different stance and setup, right? They might even grip the bat a little bit of a different way. Some of them have narrow stances, some of them have really wide stances. Some start open, some start closed. You'll see they have different hand positions. Some players like their hands down here, some like them really high, some like them somewhere in between, right? So there's no perfect way to stand, right? You're also going to notice in their load, some guys like the big leg kick, some guys like a toe tap, some guys like to just, pick up their front heel and put it back down. So again, when it comes to the proper way to load, there's no exact formula for success. But there's two things that if you look at any successful hitter, there's two positions that they get to that they virtually all look the exact same. One of them is the contact position, right? When they get to the point of contact, okay, you're going to notice all of them look very, very, very similar. All right, you're not going to see very many successful hitters who are out, lunging over their front foot, really trying to hack down, swing down on the ball, right? They're all going to look very similar if you freeze frame them at the point of contact. There's another point where they're all going to look very similar as well, the launch position. Okay, so this is something that's not really commonly taught, especially at the lower levels of baseball, but I think the earlier that you master this, the better off you'll be. And so again, when we load and when we stride and when our front foot hits the ground, that is considered your launch position. So load, stride, when my front foot hits the ground, this is your launch position. And you'll notice that, most successful hitters get to a position similar to this in their launch position. So if we start from the ground and we work up and we just point out a couple different things, first of all, their front foot lands slightly open. It's about 45 degrees. And I say open in relation to the way you start in your stance. So your feet are facing, pretty much this way in your stance. And so when you land with that front foot, it's going to land slightly open. It's not going to be open like this towards the pitcher, just slightly open compared to the way that your feet started. Again, the last checkpoint, we talked about legs. So am I sinking down? Am I activating my legs? Okay, yes. Do I have good length in this front arm? Yes. Are my eyes on the baseball? Yes. My knob of my bat, this is a big one. Is it facing down towards the catcher? Does it have that angle where my barrel is falling behind my head and my knob is facing down towards the catcher? Are my hands back? Okay, so I should have length in this front arm. My hands should be back here. I shouldn't stride and they shouldn't be in here like this. They should still be back and they should be about shoulder height. Okay, they shouldn't be up here. They shouldn't be down here, right? They should be back like this. And then my front shoulder should be slightly lower than my back shoulder. I don't want my shoulders to be level. I don't want my front shoulder to be up like this. So that is the next checkpoint that you want to focus on. The few things that I just went over, just make sure when you get to the position where your front foot hits the ground, are you in a good launch position, or are there some areas where you can improve? All right, and then the very last L for this video, the last checkpoint, is an L shape with your back arm. So we talked about your front arm, your lead arm. Now we're talking about your back arm. And what I mean is at the point of contact. So this is the last checkpoint. When you get to this point of contact here, do you have somewhat of an L shape? Now it kind of depends on where you hit the ball, right? You should be hitting the ball out in front of you like this. So it might not be a perfect L, but do you have a decent L shape here? Or, you know, if you do have a good L shape, that means you're doing a really good job of staying connected. And if you're connected, in other words, if everything is in tight towards your body instead of out and away from you where you're not strong, if you're doing a good job at staying connected, you're going to be a powerful hitter. Especially as a smaller player, you've got to make sure that you're connected. A couple ways you can get disconnected. One of them is if you're trying to get extension at the point of contact. So if you're trying to get your arms out like this, extension doesn't happen at the point of contact, it happens after. I don't have an L shape here if I try to get extension at the point of contact. Or if my timing is, if I'm way early, right? So instead of making contact at the ideal point, you know, like here, instead of doing that, I'm way early and now, oh, I'm making contact out here. I don't have that L shape. And then the last one is just when things are getting away from you, instead of staying in tight to your body here like this, if you allow things to get out here, and so you're hitting the ball out here like this, everything is away from you, that's not going to be a powerful swing. You don't have any strength out there. That's why, you know, it's easy to hold a 45-pound plate to your chest, but out here, it becomes a little bit harder. You're stronger in here, so keep everything in here, and that's the last checkpoint. Just make sure when you get to the point of contact, do you have an L shape with this back arm? Before you go, I want to share with you a brand new free gift that I created for you. It's 100% free. It's called the Contact Point Checklist. Now, this Contact Point Checklist, what I've done is I've freeze framed the swing at the point of contact, and I've highlighted the key areas that you need to focus on. So what you can do, it's 100% free. You can download this checklist and you can compare your swing and see, okay, which areas am I doing a really good job in at the point of contact, and where are some areas where I can improve. So I really think it's going to be a powerful free resource for you, 100% free. All you have to do to download it is just click on the link below. I've included the link in the description as well as the first comment. So go there, download your free Contact Point Checklist. If you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you never miss the new videos we're putting out. And thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you next time.